Welcome to the Resilience Report, where each week we share the latest on companies engaging in inspirational solutions for our planet and engage with ecopreneurs and lighthouse leaders disrupting their respective industries in pursuit of better, more resilient business. I'm your host, Lauren Scott. Thank you for joining me as we dive into this week's report. Today, we're diving into the inspiring journey of Mini TIPI, a Canadian lifestyle brand that blends authentic, Indigenous storytelling with sustainable, high-quality textiles. Joining us are the co-founders, Trisha Pitura, co-founder and creative director, and Melanie Bernard, co-founder and director of sales and marketing. Together, they've built a brand that's not just about products. It's about preserving culture, empowering artists, and fostering community. In this episode, we'll explore how Mini TIPI uses design as a form of storytelling, weaving history into every thread without words. We'll discuss their mission to address the lack of authentic Indigenous design textiles and how they collaborate with artists through meaningful partnerships and royalty programs. We'll uncover their commitment to sustainability, from eco-friendly materials to waste reduction initiatives, like the Repurposed Threads program, and discuss how values like the seventh generation principle shape their personal and professional decisions. To top it all off, both Trisha and Melanie are a delight to talk to, and the dynamic between the two of them is clearly what makes them such a magical duo.
Welcome back to another episode of the Resilience Report. Really looking forward to this conversation today because I've spent my professional career working in communications and often overlapping with a sustainability lens. And for myself, when I've often thought about communications and storytelling, I've always thought about perhaps the written word or maybe the spoken word. But our next guests are going to be talking to us about a different form of storytelling that is core to part of their work, and that is actually storytelling through design. And I have fallen in love with their designs over the years. And this is Mini TIPI. So with that, I would like to welcome their co-founders, Trisha and Melanie. Welcome to the Resilience Report.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us.
So I'd love to actually start off right on that topic of storytelling. And when I was researching your brand, this is something that I thought was so fascinating and deep part and rich part of the history of your brand and just of storytelling overall. So can you share a little bit more about this concept of storytelling through designs in textiles?
Oh, for sure. And that's like what's really unique and special about Mini TIPI is the fact that we can do that. And it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do that and carry that on. But in history, Indigenous people have been natural oral and visual storytellers. It's how we've communicated. That's how we've passed down all of our teachings, and our knowledge was through oral and visual storytelling. So when you look at all of our blankets and all of the designs that are incorporated into it, each one is super rich and full of knowledge and culture that's being passed down through generations still. So when we use our designs, the authentic designs, it's really sharing that knowledge and being able to weave. And when you talk about like weaving and storytelling, is that all of them have a significance and sharing knowledge and celebrating the culture. So I find that when we're able to represent authentic Indigenous designs and still carry that forward by sharing knowledge for generations to come, but also connecting generations from the past and learning from passing down our history, but also passing down to the next generations through design and creating beautiful art that has so much knowledge woven into that significance.
And I would love to double click on that thought of authentic Indigenous design. And I know that is part of the genesis behind Mini TIPI was to address perhaps a lack of authentic design available, especially when it came to the textile market. So can you share a little bit more about how that all started?
Yeah, well, back in 2019, we were two stay-at-home moms. We were just buying fabrics at a fabric store, and we were looking like Trisha is the one who has the fabric passion. She was always pivoting around Indigenous inspired fabric or something inspired by nature. And one day we were wondering hey, where could we buy authentic Indigenous design fabric? We looked online, we looked at fabric stores, who's the artist, and then we just couldn't find
anything. So we like, my mind was blown as a non-Indigenous person also, and as an Indigenous person. So we were like, what? It's 2019 and we cannot find anything authentic. So then we decided to create our own fabric. So Trish is the head of design here, and she creates her own fabric. And we also collaborate with Indigenous artists. But yeah, so we kind of said, well, why not us? Let's start like a change.
And with that whole idea, everything that we did see was inspired by and it's just native inspired. So it was just really seeing that we wanted to change the narrative, how important it is to have proper representation and have Indigenous voices leading cultural passings or teachings, So the fact that each one has that knowledge and is shared in an authentic way and proper representation, it really needed to happen. And it was really like the core of our mission now, but it was just something that wasn't even found. And even just like looking at what we talk about, the storytelling and how it was part of our history and that it's part of our culture. So why isn't it not being represented properly by our voices?
And you do such a great job at amplifying those voices. It's one of the few social media accounts or websites where I've seen, and even this is true, it's even with sustainable brands, you don't ever really see anything about the artists or designers behind it. And you're really making an effort to bring those artists to the forefront, highlighting them as individuals, them as professional artists. How do you go about selecting your designers? And then I know there's also an artist royalty program, which again was new to me learning about this in this space. So could you share about maybe how you find your designers and then that program that you have in place?
For sure. I know that when we want to collaborate with other artists in the community, it has a lot to do with the learning journey that we're on and myself into the culture. And I see what other artists are doing who are really connected to the culture, and either they're visual artists or they're indigenizing urban spaces. It's kind of the impact that they're having on the community and for the next generations and their traditional art form or the work that they're doing that we would want to share and learn more about, or that needs to be either it's revitalizing or just sharing those teachings. I just find that I connect with that because I really want to learn more and share that knowledge with others and just keep building the bridges between Indigenous and non-Indigenous and creating conversations. And I think that's a big part of what we do as well, is that a lot of Canadians now are really wanting to learn about our history in a good way. And just being able to create those conversations by sharing it through art and by highlighting artists in the community, because as we will talk about our royalty program, it's like full circle, and Mini TIPI is really involved in the community, and we want to use our voices and we want to use our platform to lift others up and bring others along with us, but also to have it as a safe space where everyone can come and learn, and also we can share that knowledge in a good way, in an authentic way, and represent our artists.
And yeah, as you talked about previously, the royalty program is not necessarily something you see often in the fabric textile industry. So again, back, I would say now 2020, 2021, when we did our first collaboration with our artists, we were like, well, of course we want to put that in place, a royalty program, because for us, it wasn't just like, it was really changing the narrative with the textile industry. And we were not planning on it. It's not like we were like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. But it just was so obvious to us that we wanted to do things the right way, that we had like, for sure, we wanted to be part of the economic reconciliation and compensate our artists the right way.
Part of doing the right thing too is doing things locally, which again, the textile space is not something we see that's that common in Canada. Maybe there's more conversations right now. We're recording this in 2025, but perhaps trying to reconsider that of bringing things closer together. Why was that so important, even from the beginning of designing, cutting, and sewing, and doing it all here within Canada?
I know, but of production, can you talk about that?
What are we thinking?
When you say that out loud, we're like, oh my gosh, this struggles.
It's actually a wild world to be in the manufacturing, especially in the region that we're in. We're in Gatineau, in the Outaouais area, and it's not known for sure for its manufacturing, and also in the industry, in the textile and, machines that we work with and the staffing that we look for, considering that it is like a government-run city or area here, that a lot of, I know that there's a percentage of people who work for the government, and it's high. So when we wanted to do this, I think that the whole idea was to really just create I think that when we do things, we do it with quality and we do it with intention. We are mission focused, but it's part of our value focus. But even Melanie and I, we share the same values personally that we brought into our business. So we really wanted to have impact. And what does that look like? It looks like also by creating jobs in the community. It also means like having really high quality products that we can have an eye on. It means that we have everything in-house, that we're proud to say that it's made here in Canada. And with our fabrics brought in from Italy as well, it's just really important to us to continue making things here locally so we can have that impact and have an eye on our quality, which is like one of our highest standards here with our values. So I think that just the whole made in Canada aspect is really important for us as well.
And it's also us that we discovered, again, me with I look like we really didn't have a plan, but I did have we were driven by our mission. But in the textile industry, I'm sure you know, Lauren, that it's a man's world. It's a man's world. And then we didn't know that. We're just like the two girls that are like, hello. Yeah. So a lot of challenges and learning curves. But I'm still very proud to say that we are two women. We own our own manufacturer.
Yeah. And I honestly do think that when you say that out loud, it's like we don't deliberately take the hard route, but we make change. And I think that's a lot of the things that we do is we're opening the doors constantly to, I don't know, inspire others or just make changes. Like we're always just trying to do things in a good way and differently and continue paving a way, maybe. I say that, but it's just, we say challenges, they're there, but we're very resilient and resourceful and we're very passionate about what we do. So we just take it on and keep getting up.
Yeah, it's part of the journey or a marathon. It's okay. We're up for it. The gray hair.
Well, we're so grateful that you're on that journey. And I know part of the journey has been sourcing. You're talking about the fabrics as well. And I think that's one of the things that initially drew me in was that you were also looking at sustainable fabrics. So what is that like in, call it now 2025, of trying to source these fabrics? And why was that an important piece of this as well?
Well, at first, we were not using sustainable fabrics. We just started, we were trying to find a manufacturer weaver that would weave our designs. So just that is a challenge itself because it's a mix of wool, and it was a mix of wool and polyester back then. So then the more the business grew, and then we were in our basement, we created our own manufacturer. And for me and for Trish, it didn't seem right. So for me, I saw it because we learned also in the textile world that I would say 99% of the name for fabric that you see means plastic. So it means plastic. It's like acrylic plastic, polyester plastic, polyamide plastic, So then for us, it didn't seem right to, I just had that image in my head and I still have it. So you're telling me that the more we grow, the more we're going to cover the earth in a saran wrap? Because you have to picture that we order kilometers of fabric every year. So I was like, how can I defend that to my girls? How can I tell them in 20 years that, yeah, I grew a business, but it's really like wrapping the earth in saran wrap? I don't know. I cannot unsee that image. So we were on a mission to find a more sustainable fabric, and we are still always on a mission. So we're always trying and trying. So ideally, our fabric would come from Canada. But as we said before, Canada is not known for textile industry, and we don't have the machines. On some wild days, we're dreaming on having our own machine. We're just going to have our own machine. But right now, our fabric is woven in Italy with recycled wool and recycled polyester. And they're really artisan. So it's handpicked the colors. So the fabric is not dyed again. So all the same colors are together, 100% wool, then shredded, then respun, and then woven. It's incredible process, and we're really grateful to have our supplier right now, and we are on the look, if anyone is listening, for 100% sustainable wool or recycled wool. We never know.
Yeah, no, it's really important for all of those things. But yeah, no, like Mel say, when the art form of the recycled aspect, it's really the quality that we just respect. When we see the process, you have almost so much more respect for the final product, where it starts and how it ends. It's an art form in its own. And Italy's been doing that for hundreds of years. So it's just I almost feel like the OGs of sustainability for recycled textiles.
Yeah.
But no, it's beautiful, but it's important to us. So we continue that road of always looking for how to do things better.
When you're doing that manufacturing, there's sometimes waste as well, just part of the process. I come from a manufacturing background as well, and I know that that's just the reality. Sometimes you'll have scraps, that sort of thing. But you are also thinking about that as part of your journey. And you've put a couple of different programs in place to help address that kind of end of life of those little pieces, I guess. So could you speak to what that thought process is like when you're trying to think about how can we maybe repurpose this in a different way?
Yes, as part of the manufacturing process, for sure, we always take into consideration all of our impact and our waste. And we're really conscious of the decisions that we make and the products. Like even when we started, we were always keeping we had no idea what we were doing with this fabric, but we would keep it in our basements in bags.
And you loved it, eh? I just was like, what are we gonna do with this, Trish? I'll find something. I'll find a product.
No, but we had bags of it and we didn't ever really want to put it in the landfill, because even now the quality of our fabric is beautiful. So when we take that into consideration, we always tried to make other products with some of like the ends that once we make like our shawl, we use the center to make our mittens. So we always try to utilize and optimize as much of the fabric as possible. But you're right, when there are those ends, or there's some other fabrics, we've created a program where we have organizations have reached out, or we've reached out to other organizations. There's either Indigenous women organizations, schools that are here locally, and we've collaborated with other brands who are like, they recycle, what is it called? It's like upcycle all of their products and clothing. So it's almost like a full, like another circle of the recycling aspect of where the fabric comes from. We're also recycling our ends. We would call them scraps, but they're our ends so that they can have another life form. So either the schools will make small projects to bring in some of the, the community projects that they work on, or the women's shelter, they make products to bring money back into their programs for the organization. And then we also always include people connect, the organizations also connect and learn, and they create conversations or teaching around what the fabric they're using means. So we supply the artist card so that the instructor can pass that information down, so that they also are learning about the textile, that it's recycled, they're using it in another form, and then it's creating another life to that fabric instead of going into the landfill. So we also are very conscious of what our impact is and what we're disposing, and ensuring that we're trying to do our best to keep it out of the landfill and share it with others who can benefit from it.
That's excellent. And it was actually Mini TIPI was the first brand that I've seen this. And now since then, I've seen a couple of other companies trying to do this as well. But you have a perfectly imperfect program. And I think it was maybe around Black Friday or something like that, that I remember seeing that you had a deal on some of your perfectly imperfect products. And I thought that was really interesting because I'd never really heard of that if your textile or piece that you're selling is imperfect, that totally makes sense. That it probably doesn't make sense to sell at a full price, but what are you going to do? Are you just going to throw it out? So can you share more about that program? Because I'm sure there's others like me who just haven't seen that kind of program in place.
You're right that in the textile industry, we don't really see this. But also on the other end, this is where it always happened, a little small run, a small hole. Like this is the textile industry that creates the most pollution in the world, right? So for us, again, it was like if there's a small hole or a small run, we still wanted to use it. Our quality is very high, but at the same time, under perfectly imperfect, even our perfectly imperfect, 99% of our clients are writing, I've never found the imperfection. It's just that straight. Exactly. Well, it's okay. It means that our eye is still really, really high quality. It's just that for us, we're really transparent and we would never sell something with a little imperfection. But now that it's said, the price point is lower. So, our mission is still the same. The design story tells, and so it creates conversation. So why wouldn't we just offer it at a lower price? And Trish said that the other day, and I thought it was interesting. She's like, we all have our little imperfections, but we're still perfect. So I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds right. And also, are perfectly imperfect. If you have a chance, every year we have warehouse sale in person. So this is also a really, really good opportunity to come in the Ottawa-Gatineau region, but then to get all of the samples, everything, because those are still really good pieces that people can enjoy or be creative to create. Like the other day, someone created a coat out of like a perfectly imperfect blanket. So maybe the blanket had a really, really tiny hole, but then to create something else for yourself, why not? Right?
Very, very neat. Sounds like a great reason for a road trip.
No, it's really nice when people visit the facility because a lot of the times people don't realize that we're just right here locally, like in the region. And the fact where all the magic happens, which is also really fun, but also how, I don't know, I feel like it's almost like an outside world of just seeing the social media aspect of it. But behind the scenes is really impressive. And we have a really great team here. So it's really fun to connect with our customers when they're in our facility, and people really love it. It's also like, it's one of the highlights of the year is to really connect face to face with our customers and hear their feedback, and also that they get to meet us and we get to meet them. And
when is it really that you get to go see a manufacturer?
That's true. It's true.
You're right.
And then it's like, yeah, that person made your shawl.
Yeah.
This is that person made your shawl. So, and also for employees, I find it's great to see the full circle and see, because, well, they're more production, and sometimes I'll speak for myself, marketing and sales. So I'm with the outside world. And then to see what people, like the people's face when they buy something, how excited they are, it really fills our cup. Everyone, yeah.
So humanizing to the whole process of connecting.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for your sustainability journey that you've also expressed, you're thinking about this from this 7th generation principle. And for our listeners who are maybe less familiar with this, can you share kind of how this lens can help us all think about how we can be more sustainable in our day-to-day and our personal, professional lives as well?
The 7th generation principle, it's an Indigenous concept that has been leading our practices, our life, where it guides us in terms of the decision making that we make. And it's just to really remember the 7 generations before you, and also keep in mind when you're making all of your decisions, the 7 generations to come. So it's not just you as a person solo on this planet. You have to make the right decisions and think about it to sustain it for the next 7 generations. So it's even whether you're talking about environmental issues or you just your day-to-day practice, how you treat people, everything. I think that it's not just an Indigenous concept. It should be practiced by everyone, and thinking about maybe just like less selfish or like selfless, or you just think about others, and also others and our mother, who we're like all sharing in this planet that we're on, and how we can sustain her for the next 7 generations. I think that it's really an important practice to take on for everybody to make their decisions.
One of the things we also say is like, buy well, buy once, in the sense of like, sometimes with the price point, or, with the fast fashion, or people are used to that. But I think, and I hope I kind of see like the light over there, that a lot of more people are starting to ask questions and value quality over quantity. So that also would be part of the 7th generation.
Exactly that, because all of our products we take that in, we put that principle into our products so that they can be passed down as an heirloom to multiple generations. And when you buy well, you're buying once, and then that's something that can be practiced in everything that you do.
Definitely think it's a principle that our listeners can take to heart. And we do have a number of our listeners who are entrepreneurs. We always like to give some tips for those who are listening in to learn from our guests. And for Mini TIPI, I was thinking one approach that could be interesting to learn from is this kind of how you show up in the market. And I know that you have a bit of a hybrid approach where you're both in-store in some retail outlets, and then you're also online, which is how I found you. If we have entrepreneurs thinking about maybe what is the best way for them to show up, are there any considerations for them to keep in mind as they're making that decision if they want one or the other, or a hybrid approach?
Well, I will definitely say, as I vote for the hybrid approach, we all saw in 2020 with COVID that people that didn't have a website were really, really hurt. And sometimes big companies or big like brands were not really were more in stores and less in retail, less online, I mean. And then it hurted them, So I think how we started was really small and little on Etsy. So I think Etsy is a great platform for anyone who really starts as a maker. And that's what we were before, makers. And then after that, we pivoted towards Shopify because then you have a little bit more of, you can storytell more on a bigger platform. It can, like, we saw that we wanted to share videos, we wanted to share more things. So I think it's a great tool. And then stores, it's some people when, they want to touch, they want to smell, they want to like feel all the feels that, of course, an online picture will never do the same thing as seeing, let's say, one of our blanket in person. And we've seen it at markets or even at markets too. This is another finding like good markets with your audience. We still make a couple a year, but with the right audience, it's always good that to be like top of mind of people. Maybe some people like not forgot about you, but they were like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Now I think about them for like a gift but nothing beats the reaction in a store. Then to sell in store, I think you just need to have like your numbers in place and to know how to deal with retailers. But I would say like, just go for it. Just go for it. And then, some people think like it's really like they're going to take like the biggest margin. But at the beginning, this like when you try smaller stores, I think everything is negotiable. Don't be shy. Just try it. Worst case, it's no. And then you still have your website.
It's a great recommendations. There's so many learnings, as you were saying. The two of you are testing things out and showing what's possible, which is so appreciated, I'm sure, from those who are following behind you. There's probably also a lot in front of you. Are you guys working on anything in particular right now that you're really excited about and that you can share with our listeners?
Well, we have a briefing, but I won't mention any names specifically, but we have some really cool projects this year. This year's planned out marketing-wise with Mel and her team, but it's really, we have other Indigenous businesses. We're doing a collab with another Indigenous business to showcase both of our businesses and what we do and the authenticity that underlies both of us. And we have a new artist collaboration that will be coming out in the fall. So this one is going to be really exciting. And it's a really cool project to be working on. And we're really looking forward to launching this one and sharing it with everybody.
And can I say another, I'm going to say it just like it that maybe, but our first Indigenous artist from United States. So for those who are listening, great time right now in Canada and the United States. For Indigenous people, it's all called Turtle Island. So Canada, United States, and Mexico. So it has no borders. And for us, our collaboration with our artists started a long way before all of this political Canada, United States, Mexico started. And then we're still really proud to share, like to present the teachings he has to share. So stay tuned.
Yes, that's coming soon.
I love that.
I did forget that one, but yes.
Oh, I know you were like, am I talking about it? Am I not talking about it? What's going on?
Oh, what's going on out there in the world right now? But we're excited for that as well.
It's such a beautiful lesson, I think, for all of us to think about how we can showcase that collaboration in our own ways, in our own businesses. Is this something that you kind of always wanted to do in terms of being entrepreneurs? It kind of sounds like maybe in 2019 you saw this white space that just you wanted to fill because it really felt important from a values perspective. So I'm curious to know your entrepreneurial journey. And then also, was there always the sustainability element behind that as well, where that kind of came about for you?
Well, I can speak for myself, even because now we're making more podcasts or like people are asking us this question. And at first I was like, no, not at all. I'm a teacher by trade. Then I start looking back and I had my first like business at 7 years old. And I did my first big fundraiser at 8, like newspaper and everything. And I'm like, I just do it because people need help, So I guess, or at college, I was part of like the entrepreneurial, like, after school. So I guess it was always a little bit in me. And what I like to say is all the experiences I've had in life led me to today. So I wouldn't see myself anywhere else, even if I do not have an MBA. I think your other skills are also really important in who you surround yourself with. And with this sustainability aspect, it was always something I had in mind. As I said, the saran wrap picture for me is really, it still have this in mind. So I think it was always part of who I was also. What about you, Trish?
I wasn't doing all of these things but I always was using my hands in some way. I think that it was more the being crafty or just like seeing my grandmothers doing projects with their hands and like different, whether it was like you working with leathers or knitting, or baking, or I always was interested in being crafty or learning different types of crafts. So I feel like that for me was always an interest. And when we came into like I really felt I wanted to learn to sew, to quilt. And but when I started playing with the textile, I just fell more in love with the design aspect of things and palettes and colors. And so I kind of from there led me to where we are today. But
Ellen and like, oh yeah. But yeah.
But it was just a lot of working with my hands and being more visual that way. And just for a lot of my childhood being on the land and spending my summers on the reserve for my campus, it was more just having that connection with nature more and understanding that, it's like a beautiful space that we all share, and that kind of connection that I feel with like the water, the land, nature is just important for the impact that we're having in terms of the business that we're building with our mission. And again, like we talk about, like for the generations to come. So I think all of these things that, we have in our lives, our experiences and our new interests and our new learnings, it all kind of guides us to where we want to go, and it brings us into the direction that we can share with others. And hopefully, like by us making these types of decisions and showing others possibilities, like we can maybe share those practices and people can inspire people to also make changes or also incorporate those into their business model.
And I think more and more people, though, it's really nice to see are asking themselves the questions like, is it made in Canada? Is there an artist behind this design? Like, is Trisha Indigenous? So like people are more curious, but in a good way. And we always welcome questions and we're not offended by it. And yeah, so we are who we are and we're making the change we can make. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing and encouraging this curiosity. I think it's such an important part of all of us just becoming better rounded individuals. I think that's such an important piece of just creating that safe space to be curious and to learn more. And our listeners, I'm sure, are going to want to learn more about both of you and the brand. So where would you recommend that they go and check out?
Well, for sure, website, minitp.ca, on our social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube is really interesting because this is where we have like all our videos with our artists and Trish. So all the great videos, and I find like seriously, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch these artists. It's beautiful to the storytelling that they're doing. So it's really amazing. And all the behind the scenes is of course on Instagram and our newsletter. So our newsletter is still really written by me and the marketing team. So it's always a great way to have the behind the scenes, the first dibs. We invited the other day some of our very good clients to our very first launch in person. So it's also like a great way to stay in touch, the newsletter.
Well, thank you both so much. You're both so inspiring. I'll be honest with you, when I started this podcast a couple of years ago, I made a wish list and Mini TIPI was on there. I just think what you're doing is so inspiring. And I would love your thoughts on this question that we ask at the end of every episode, because I think you're both so well positioned to answer this, which is, what do you think it will take for businesses and leaders to be resilient going forward?
Good question.
I feel that in this day of age in entrepreneurship, it just really takes a lot of courage. And I feel that when you put one foot in front of the other and just continue, it makes all the difference. And just to kind of believe in yourself and keeping your why and your mission at your fingertips and understanding why you're doing it. Because, there are tough days. And that's why when you get back up, those are the learning. That's like when I read this the other day, and it was an entrepreneurship like quote or something. It's like, I failed more times than you've tried. And I thought that was interesting because it's like true that failure is okay. Like you have to accept that failure is okay because you learn from failure and you grow. So the more you try, maybe you'll fail, but you'll just keep getting back up. So I think that the resiliency is in the efforts. Yeah, I just say just keep going because keep opening doors for others.
For me, what makes me resilient and makes me want to go forward every day, I think, is to see even when it's the smallest of the change, to see it and to realize that we're not alone. A lot of people, we have a community now, and I'm sure everyone, like every entrepreneur has a community, whether it's on LinkedIn, TikTok, like whatever change they're trying to make. You start with your small community, but then that community is small and mighty. They care. And then it's like the mission gets like shared by more than just the two of us, So that makes me every day in front of challenges resilient, because I know there is like small change operating on a day-to-day. And then with the small changes, at one point, it's a real change that happens.
Well, thank you both so much for joining me this morning. It's been really an honor speaking to both of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren, for having us.
Yes, thank you, Miigwech.
I hope that you've enjoyed this week's edition of the Resilience Report. If you would like to hear and see more, be sure to check out @The Resilience Report on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until we connect again, remember, even on the darkest of days, we all have the opportunity to be a lighthouse for others as we collectively pursue better, more resilient business.